And that's what I always tell people is we've heard about OPM, other people's money. And in my opinion, one of the best ways to scale, but it's not enough. And so the concept is really OPE, other people's everything. If you figure exactly what you're amazing at and what also lights you up, because I'm good at some stuff that I do not love. You got to do some stuff you don't love to get to the point. You got to do the work and all that. I'm not saying that it's just like this magic pill that, oh yeah, I'm never doing anything I don't want to do. Sometimes we got to do stuff we don't want to do, but we don't want to stay there. You don't want to live there. And so if you can learn how to first allow yourself to say what lane is yours.
Well, I'm excited for this episode. I have a friend and colleague, Bethany, here. And in addition to her lovely red hair, which I'm jealous of, when I went through a season of transition in my life, I chopped my hair off and cut it red. And sometimes when I see other beautiful ladies with red hair, I'm like, I want to be spunky like that again. But I just love her. She is business partners with a friend of mine that I've known for over 20 years. And she's been with him now like 6 or 7.
Yeah. Yeah. 6 or 7, maybe going on 8. I don't even know. It's been forever now.
Yeah.
I almost can't remember my before Mauricio days.
Yes. And you guys teamed up because of, and Mauricio and I did an episode. So if you've not watched that episode, go watch it. But he went through a health crisis, a scare, and really needed to figure out how to organize and scale his business in a way that was allowed him to have more longevity and also time freedom with his family. And so Bethany came in and united with Mauricio to do that. So she's amazing operationally. She's also amazing in hosting different shows and podcasts, and then also as a syndication attorney. So Bethany, super excited you're here.
Thank
Long
you so
intro.
much for having me.
Yes, I wanted to start. I think that we have some parallel histories in pursuing the things that we want to pursue, but also hitting inner blocks along that journey. So if you could just share your story about how you went on the entrepreneurial journey, if you even knew you were going to be an entrepreneur, and then the hurdles you had to face to become that.
I had no idea. In fact, if you would have asked me even probably like 10 years ago, I might not have even called myself an entrepreneur, maybe 15 around then. But I started off on the path to becoming a lawyer because growing up poor, I was told that how smart girls make it out is become a doctor or a lawyer.
Oh.
It wasn't, and I was pre-med my first year of college, and so lawyer it was because I hated pre-med. It was terrible. And I didn't know what an entrepreneur was. It didn't occur to me like that was something I could do. Nobody in my family did any of that. In fact, I was one of the first people, well, not one of the first people, but one of the few people to go to college in my family. Yeah. And so I was like, all right, I got to be a lawyer. That's how I get out of this. Right.
Yeah.
And I got into law school and I started practicing and I realized I'm like, ooh, this isn't very fun. I don't love this the way I should. And I don't think there's any amount of money that's going to make me love this the way that I should, or for how hard I was working.
Yeah.
Right? Because my value back then was I'm a harder worker than everyone. I show up before everyone. I leave after everyone. I'm here on the weekends. And it was like my badge of honor that I worked harder than everyone. Mm-hmm. I didn't make more than everyone. I wasn't happier than everyone. I just worked harder. So
where do you think that came from? Because I think a lot of people can relate to that. Like, I'm just going to outwork you. Yeah. And there's a lot over social media right now that is like, yeah, you might outwork me, but that will only benefit you if you're working on the right things.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
And yeah, so how did you wire that in your brain? And then how did you unwire it?
I think where that came, we get some of these beliefs from before we even have words for it, right? Our survival beliefs. And I think a lot of that came from, in order to be valuable in the family, in order to be valuable in the world, whatever, you just have to work hard. I came from a family of people that were poor, but they worked real hard. So you'd think that logically, my logical brain would go, well, that doesn't equal what I want. So why would I do it? But if that's all you know, right? And you think, okay, I guess I just have to work a little harder than my family then. And where it came from was things like there was almost like a judgment around people who didn't work hard and still had money. They didn't earn it. There was, I can't tell you how many times people in my family, when I started making money, was like, oh, you deserve it. Why do I deserve it? I think we all can have it if we want it, right? So it's from way early of just like, that's what you do. You toil, you toil, you toil. And maybe one day you'll be blessed with some manner of success, whatever that looks like. And a lot of times that people in my family or who I grew up around, I'm not trying to bag on my family at all. They're lovely. But people that I grew up with, you know, they have these careers that they're super happy with. They leave it there and they go home to their families, and then they do their thing on the weekends and in the evenings, and they don't think about work. And I sometimes really wish that would satisfy me, because it would be a lot less stressful probably, right? But I've never been in a job where I just leave it when I leave. And in fact, I'm not wired that way. When I waited tables and bartended, I took it with me. Right. So it's just not how I'm wired. So I just think it's partly how I grew up and partly just how I'm wired.
Yeah. What's so interesting, the doctor path and the lawyer path, like one is, I would consider more logical, and the other, it would be a little bit more compassionate and empathy oriented, which are like two total opposites. So you started on what I would consider the empathy path in pre-med, and then quickly realized, nope, not doing that. I want to do the logical path.
Yeah. And I think it's because I'm an empath too, that it wouldn't be much for me.
Yeah.
I actually, when I was pre-med, I thought I wanted to be a psychiatrist, a clinical psychiatrist. And it was, so I'm older. I graduated around the time Silence of the Lambs came out, if anybody remembers Silence of the Lambs. And I thought, I want to be that kind of doctor. And I got into it and I realized that would take me down a path that I don't want to go down. And it was just too much. So I think that's why I swung way out to logic, right? Because I can manage logic.
I think that's so interesting too, because I have had this in my life as well, where I think I know what will resonate with me. So like you think being a doctor is going to resonate with you because you are an empath, and then you start going down that path, and then you quickly realize like, wait, the thing that is my gift, if I deploy it here, it will actually drain it so greatly that I won't be able to have it for myself. But sometimes you only uncover that if you have the courage to pursue a path.
Yeah, no, and that's true. And I didn't realize it at the time because it felt like the logical path, doing law, and it was like very transactional. And in fact, I was in litigation at first and even left that because that was too much conflict. I went into transactions because I want to help people build something. Right. So I learned way later that having that empathy makes for actually a better lawyer. You don't want too many people that are just like cold and calculated to be lawyers. That's how we got the reputation of all being assholes. I mean, we don't want that. So I think it works. I just didn't consciously decide it. It's sort of the universe just said, we're going this way. You know?
So you're now on the attorney path. You quickly realize litigation isn't for you. You go into transaction. And then what point did you realize you were going to start a firm?
Well, I started my own law practice several years, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago now, something early in my career. And because I was at a litigation law firm and I was at one of the big downtown LA law firms where, you know, you bill. It was just a mill, right? And I billed second highest in the firm, which I was like, look at me go, you know, and what I got for that was stress, anxiety. I didn't get anything more for that other than I could say it to you now, I guess, but it didn't really benefit me at all. And so after 2 years of doing that, I was like, you know what? I was commuting, by the way, too. I was commuting about 3 hours a day from Orange County to LA, which LA traffic, everyone's heard the rumors, even if you haven't been here, you know, sitting in traffic all that time and then practicing law that much was like, I was not a happy person, right?
No.
Not that nice, actually. And so I was like, that's it. I'm going to work down in Orange County. I took a job at a firm where I lasted exactly 2 weeks because it was what I learned when I got in there. It was supposed to be trial work in the real estate space, but still trial work because I thought I still wanted to do trial work. And when I got in there, I realized that what I was going to be doing was evicting people from their mobile homes. which just didn't sit right with me. I was like, absolutely not. I will not be doing that. No. So I quit without another job, without anything. And I was like, you know what? I know how to set up business entities. I know a lot of people. This was early 2000s when everybody was leaving consulting firms and setting up their own consulting firms. So I had a bunch of people that I could just set up businesses for. So I just started to do that. And I was like, oh my God, these people are so excited. They want me to help them. And I was self-taught. I had no mentor, no partner, no experience. I'm 2 years in. I'm a baby lawyer at this point. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it myself. I would not recommend going that path for young lawyers. Get a mentor, get a partner. Don't try to figure it all out yourself, because, you know, that's my badge, right? I work harder than everybody. I make everything. So I learned mergers and acquisitions. I learned securities. I did that whole thing. And so I had my own firm for a while.
Yeah.
And I started to kind of burn out.
Yeah. So I think that a lot of people, when they are in transitions in their lives, sometimes they go what you did, which is, I know I don't want this. I don't know what I want, but I know I don't want this.
Yeah.
And then the journey redirects you to something that then you're like, oh, this is energizing and I'm excited about this. And it unfolds in a more serendipitous or synchronistic way. Did that happen for you?
It did. I mean, and there were some bumps along the way where I was like, oh my God, this is horrible, horrible, horrible. Looking back, I'm like, all right, I had to go through that to get to here. And I never complain about my past because I'm happy now. Right. So did some terrible things happen? Sure, they did, but I'm happy now. And so I can't, you know, I play that game sometimes where of like, what would I tell my younger self? Or if I could go back and know what I know now and do things differently, what would I do? And I'm always afraid at what point I would choose to not get what I have now.
Yes.
Like, could I have shortcut some of the pain? Yeah, I could have, but I don't want to change now. So I would be afraid to change anything. So this is, I know it's a silly exercise, but I do it a lot for somebody who doesn't want to do it. It's like that. How would you spend lottery money? Like,
yeah,
I didn't even buy a ticket. So I don't know. Why am I even having this conversation? So I did. I merged my practice into another mid-market firm just so that I could have a deeper bench to help me without having to manage more employees. I didn't want to manage more employees. So I went and basically took a job essentially at a firm for a while. And I realized fairly quickly that I didn't like, I was like, oh God, law firms are just, they suck. Law firms kind of suck. They just, and this was a good law firm even, right? The people, you know, and even then I was like, this sucks. This isn't my life.
You don't want to hang out with attorneys all day.
No, I don't. And I was the only woman attorney in that office. So the other woman was, of course, the legal assistant secretary person. And while they were lovely, it's still very evident that I was the only woman. And, you know, it was, when I first got in there, I think they were afraid I was going to ruin their bro culture. Right. And so then there's that, like, okay, what facade do I put on? Do I make them comfortable? Do I make them uncomfortable? And it's just that dance, you know?
Let's talk about this, because I have been a female in a very male-dominated world most of my career, and it sounds like you have had similar. And how did you approach that?
I did the play along to get along kind of thing, right? Or whatever the saying is. I don't even know if that's the saying, but I did I want them to feel comfortable. I don't want them to feel like I'm ruining their culture. And I am, like, I've always had guy friends. I've always worked in male environments. So, I mean, I can manage and I don't get offended very easily. I really don't. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, but I don't really want to be the butt of all, you know, all of the, it's not like they were making fun of me or the jokes or whatever, but it's just a different dynamic. And so I'll never forget, and I don't know if you can bleep this out or edit this out if you want to. But I was there a week and I kind of sensed the tension and almost people walking around on eggshells, and something happened and I swear a lot. Like I just do. And I said, fuck. Yeah. And it was like this collective sigh of relief throughout the entire office. Like, oh, okay, she's cool. Right. And I'm like,
you're a guy's girl, and so you can hang out with them and they can be their normal selves and the culture didn't have to change.
Right. Because it's not like they were harassing me or anything like that. They weren't, you know. But then there's still that weird dynamic of their wives didn't want me going to dinners. Yeah. And, you know, so I was not invited to a lot of the client events. I wasn't invited because it made their wives uncomfortable. And I was just like, okay, I never want to get in the way of someone's marriage, obviously, but my career is suffering here because you won't be clear. I don't want your husband, even if he wanted me, and he doesn't, by the way. I just want to get ahead in my career. Right.
Mhm.
And so even no matter what a guy's guy I was, that it was almost worse because I was now the exact opposite of all their wives.
Mhm.
It's like the one thing that, and by the way, the thing they would never really want, or they would have married that.
Yes.
Right. So I recognize that. I just kind of wish
Mhm.
the wives would, and it's their responsibility to help their wives see that, by the way. I'm not blaming the wives at all. I think
Mhm.
it's the guy's responsibility to make sure she's comfortable with whatever situation he finds himself in. But it
Mhm.
shouldn't be my problem.
Mhm.
Right. So that was my frustration and balance always.
Yeah. I've always found it easier being in a relationship
Yeah.
because you are automatically less of a threat.
Yeah. I was married at the time, although I was going through a divorce maybe 2 years into that, working at that, or a year and a half working into that firm. And I'll tell you what, everything changes. When I got divorced, I was all of a sudden like, oh, well, now I'm like, look, I didn't want my husband. I don't want yours.
Husband out. This is on the table.
Anybody's husband. Yeah. It never remains true today. I don't want anybody else's husband. That's just the rule I have, you know?
So I'm sure you had a lot of growth during that because being in a male dominated world, then getting married, then getting divorced, and even the story you make that mean about who you are and your lovability or likability or your ability to merge with another human and communicate and collaborate. Like, what did you make it mean, and how did you unpack some of the trauma that probably created?
You know, I still did the like try to get along kind of thing, right? And so I'd be like, okay, let's try to do lunches and have other people there, and we're not going to have drinks, right? It won't be at night. And, you know, I would try to create an environment that would be less impactful on them. So but I was playing small so that other people weren't uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and I could have just been like, this is my space. I'm going to take up my space, deal with your own marriage if you're going to deal with your own marriage. Like, I don't know. But, you know, I made myself small.
Yeah, I feel like I've done that so much in my life, so much. And I've even stayed in relationships that I shouldn't have stayed in and held myself back. And I think part of that is empathy. Like you can so empathize with the other person that you're interacting with that you could see their pain and you could see their path forward. And the rescuer in us is like, well, we'll fix it.
Yeah.
So what transition did you have to go through to give yourself permission to take up space?
Gosh, it wasn't until way after I left there. And I left there to leave the practice of law altogether. I was like, that's it. I'm going to just do my own thing. I actually wanted to start a fund. So I was like, I'm going to leave. I'm going to start a fund. I'm getting out of the practice of law altogether. I don't love the environment. At the time, I didn't love the clients. I was working for a bunch of like big corporate people in Silicon Valley bros, and I was treated like the help. And I was like, I can build stuff. I don't think you guys know who I am. And again, playing small.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I left that and moved on. And even still, like that failed miserably, by the way. I met Mauricio while I was still licking my wounds from that failed fund.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I didn't mean to partner with Mauricio. That was like a total accident for both of us, I think. Right. He was like, help me fix. Well, no, actually, now that I think about it, it wasn't an accident for him. He tells me, he's like, you don't know, you were on my vision board. Look, it's right there. You know, not me. He didn't know it was me.
Yes.
But I had to figure out, like, I wasn't going to let myself do anything really big until I was ready. And so that fund it just wasn't going to work because I didn't take up my space.
Mm-hmm.
I did let other people kind of, make me small, not make me small. I did that to myself, but I allowed it to happen. Right.
Yeah.
So I had to, and it's done, you know, I've spent a whole bunch of money and a whole bunch of time to figure out. And it's still a daily practice, by the way, of like, I just before this call had a call with Susan where she was like, Bethany, that's it. Take up your space. This is what we're going to do. And sometimes it's harsh, right? And sometimes I'm like, screw you. I don't want to hear this right now. I'm mad. I just want to be mad right now, you know? And she's like, no, this is what we're doing. If it doesn't work for you. And it's a work in progress, but who I had to become was somebody who just owned who I really am authentically. I'm not small. And I'm mad when I feel like someone makes me small.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm mad when I feel like people aren't hearing what I think is my brilliance, right?
Yeah.
And me, that's not like, nobody needs to believe that I'm brilliant. They don't need to believe that, you know, like I don't need that. but sometimes I'm like, you didn't hear me?
Yeah.
And so I have to just remember, like, just own who you are. People will fall away or they'll step up. That's it. That's up to them.
Do you feel that you sometimes let minor violations to your own intuition happen, and then you have a month later, 6 months later, a year later, you're like, enough. I don't this is unacceptable to me. And then you're mad at the perpetrator, whether it's a circumstance or a person or a thing, but underneath it all, you're mad at yourself because you can look back and piece together all of the breadcrumbs that were like the micro betrayals. Is that okay?
Oh God. I mean, all the time. In fact, there's something that I wrote in my book, something along the lines of the good news is we have complete control over all of this. We have complete control about if we let any minor in violations or how long we let them go. That's the good news. The bad news is we have complete control. It's all on us. There's nobody we can cut out. There's nobody, like, that's it. I mean, maybe people get cut out, but it's because of me that they get cut out, not because of them. So it's a responsibility, but also a blessing at the same time.
Hello again. I have something special for you. If you are a 7-figure entrepreneur, or even just an entrepreneur who's aspiring to do big things, then you will really enjoy our 4 tips guide on how you can go from where you're at, whether it's scattered, chaotic, drowning, to something that's systematized, organized, and scaling. Just click the link below and we will send you this free guide that will transform not only your business, but you as a leader. So I have that same exact experience, and I know a ton of entrepreneurs that do as well. So I talk to a lot of them, and I know we're not alone in this. Something I have been working on is checking in with myself more so that I don't have these like month, year, or longer cycles. Do you have ways that you check in with yourself, or that your body talks to you, or your sleep talks to, how do you know if you're feeling congruent or not?
So I work with Susan on this a lot. I do energy work with her where she'll have me check in, like, okay, where in your body do you feel this? Where in your body, when it's good, do you feel that? And so I know now when I start feeling tension in my personal power, and I know if I feel tension in there, I have to stop and check, like, what triggered that? It might just be I heard something that would have triggered my past self, and I can just release it and go, that's not a thing. I'm not worried about that anymore. We already we got past that one, right? Or it's, oh, that's a thing. You need to check in with that and fix that thing. Or you need to take a minute and breathe, or whatever it is. But I can feel it in my personal power, in my gut, whatever you want to call it, right? So I physically feel, and I know, stop, what triggered that? Is it somebody that reached out after a while that triggers me that I cut out for a reason? Is it a thing that I have a little PTSD around that maybe I don't need anymore? I can then dismiss it consciously. So I just try to pull it to the conscious mind so that my body can let it go. And then I know when I'm in like my flow or my bliss or whatever, I feel that in my third eye. So I'm like buzzing in my third eye. And so I know, okay, this is good. We're good. I used to quiet that down. I was like, you're just daydreaming, or that's what you want to think, or that's what, that's wishful thinking or whatever. And I would quiet her down. But I listen to her a lot more now.
I have been on completely. How did you reconcile the people that you felt like you needed to transition out of your life?
That's a harder one. And I did practice a lot when I went to law school, right? That empath, it gets squished down with the logical a lot. So a lot of times I'm pretty good at compartmentalizing, for better or for worse. That might not always be good.
I have the same problem.
I'm good at compartmentalizing, like, that doesn't work for me, so you have to stay over here. I have a lot of people in my life that I love from afar. And they just don't get access to me anymore. And it's just logical brain. I don't entertain emotional conversations about it anymore. I don't entertain but don't you feel bad? That's family, or that's somebody you've known for 40 years or whatever. No, I don't, because nothing gets to sacrifice my personal peace or my daughter's personal peace or safety at all. And I get to decide what that means. So when I gave myself permission to do that, it became a lot easier.
Yeah. That journey to full permission, I think, is a journey. And we stumble through it at times.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
But if you check in with your body again,
Mm-hmm.
people that if I hear from, I feel it right here. I'm like, nope, we're not there yet. Maybe someday, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we focus on the work. But that's the
Yeah.
other thing. My kind of new rule is I'm not going to just do all the work for all of us anymore.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I feel like I've done that a lot in my life.
Yeah. Like I'll do my side of the street will be clean. And if it's not, call me out. That's great.
Yeah.
I'll hear it.
My friend bought me this candle and it says, "Not my pastor, not my bullshit."
I love that.
And I'm like, why am I constantly going into other people's yards and cleaning up their shit?
Right. Yes.
Why?
And they didn't even ask you to, right?
They
Sometimes.
didn't even ask me to. No. So I have noticed one of my patterns, like it's the empath, but it's the people pleasing.
Mm-hmm.
It's the caring more about having a beautiful environment around me than the people around me care.
Yeah.
And so then I'm constantly cleaning up the environment, whether it's emotionally or financially or logistically or,
Yeah.
But if they don't care, then maybe we shouldn't be in the same environment.
Right. That's right. And even worse if they're upset about it.
Yes.
Right. Some of the work that I've done with Susan, she very gently said, or she didn't say this to me, she kind of led me to my own realization that in some ways that is actually selfish behavior on my part to push my whatever I think it should be on the other people around me. Like that's because I always think I know better. I know what this should look like here. I know. And what we kind of did, we did this exercise. In my mind, when we do it, because we do a lot of visualization and stuff, in my mind, it's a chessboard, right? And this is my chessboard. And this is how my chessboard goes. And you can come onto my chessboard, but this is how my chessboard goes. But if I'm on your chessboard, I don't get to tell you how it goes. And those are the rules. So this is mine. And if you want me on yours, then these are my rules for being on it. And you get to tell me your rules while I'm on it. So I can kind of like visualize and separate out my boundaries and their boundaries.
It's almost the opposite of enmeshment, right? It's learning where I end or we end and somebody else begins and allowing for that autonomy without it threatening the connection.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a practice and exercise, but everybody's got to be on board with playing it.
Yeah. Yes. And if you're not on board with playing it, then we can't play the game together until you are on board with playing it.
I love you for your game. That's great.
Yes. Okay. So let's rewind just a second to when you did partner with Mauricio and you made the comment you were still licking your wounds from the failed fund. Yeah. Although I'm sure there was a myriad of lessons in that for you.
Tons. Yeah, tons. And it was very, very difficult. But again, it led me to here. So here, and here is good. So that's good.
Yeah. And I'm sure there was a rebuilding of your identity.
Yeah. Yeah.
With the partnership.
It was. And I'll tell you, I'm almost a different person than when I met Mauricio. Right. And it's funny because he points that out sometimes. He's like, that's not what I thought. And it's all good now. But he's like, wait, this is, And I was like, that's okay. We're doing better now. So it's all good. Yeah. But there was an identity shift because he needed help. I met him right after he was sick. Right. And he was looking for someone like, I can't be the single point of failure. I need someone to come in and whatever. So I was like, all right, I will help, but I'm going to help like from over here and it's your thing. I'll just come in and help. I don't even want to be a lawyer, but I got to figure out what I'm going to do next. Let's figure this out. So I jumped in and started helping him. And he was like, well, what's it going to take for you to do more? And what's it going to take for you to do more? And I was like, well, I'll do this, but that's it. I'm not running a law firm anymore. I've done that before. I don't want to do it again. And then I started actually interacting with the clients. And I was like, well, I like these people. Yeah. I didn't like my other clients. They were kind of assholes, but these people are building stuff. They're like trying to escape the rat race. Like they're trying to build something for their families. They're not just like corporate, shills just trying to, or they don't treat me like the help. They treat me like I'm almost, in some cases, like their salvation. So like my nurture and caretaker was like, I got you, I can do this, And I fed off of that. I can help you. I can help you build something. And I was like, okay, I can help a little more and a little more. And finally he was just like, you want to run it? And I was like, move, I got it.
It's almost like that slow build too rebuilt your confidence.
Yeah.
For you as well. And then me personally knowing Mauricio, I remember I helped him almost, it was like 15 years ago in his law firm for a little bit. And I remember we had one person call us who was potentially going to be a client, ended up going off on the phone. And his paralegal overheard the conversation that I had with this potential client, and we hung up. The paralegal recounts it to Mauricio. And I'm thinking okay, I don't know how we're going to bring this person on as a client. They don't feel like a culture fit. And I didn't say any of this, but Mauricio instantly picks up the phone, calls that person and says, hey, just heard that you had a conversation. I'm thinking that it's probably not a fit. So I just wanted to let you know as quickly as possible so you can go find another attorney. And click. And I'm like, that is leadership. That is somebody that will protect you without you even having to ask for it. So I could see you coming in, licking your wounds, right? And feeling that culture that he was able to provide about small wins and also respecting your boundaries with how much you wanted to take on and letting it be something that you chose into versus forced.
Yeah.
Which maybe was different for you as well.
It was. And that was the thing that I was missing in my own firm, right? Is everything was on my head. And this is what I explained to him. I'm like, look, I know I will treat your firm like my firm because I don't know how to do anything else. I'm not an employee. I'm just not. So I'll treat it like it's my own because I care enough that it's like my own. I don't want to be responsible for all of it by myself. That was my thing at my other firm is I was on the hook for all the business development, all the billing, all the work, everything, managing. And it's a lot because I didn't want to be that in the weeds, of it by myself. And so, but I was like, gosh, this guy, it's his firm. He's on the hook with me. Right. So I felt safe saying, okay, I've got someone who's just as more in it really than me because he built it. Right. And so that was, you're exactly right. I felt safe to kind of grow and then expand back to who I was and then even more. And it's funny when I talked to Susan, because I was working with her back then too, is I was like, well, I'm going to do this, but I don't want to practice law. It sucks. And she goes, and she's very intuitive. Right. So she's like, do you want intuitive feedback or not? And even though I know sometimes it's hard to hear, I always say yes. Cause I'm like, this is why I'm a terrible poker player. I always want to see the flop. Right. So I was like, of course I want to know the intuitive feedback. She was like, you're not done with this. I'm like, sure, yes, I am. I'm going to do something else. I'll figure it out. And she's like, you're not done. Here we are, 6, 7, 8 years later, whatever it is. Right.
I think that it's very easy when you have a hard blow to throw everything out and just be like, I'm going to start over. And I do think having people in your corner, like Susan, to remind you of what your greatest good is beyond the 6-month wounding that you're sitting in right now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it is good to have the reminder and really the ability to learn the exercise of checking in with yourself to remind yourself. Right. So it used to be, I called her a lot more like, okay, talk me down. And now I'm like, okay, I have the tools to check in, figure out what's going on. And then, so now when I talk to Susan, a lot of times it's really, we're building, we're business strategizing because we work with garbage, right? A lot of it. And so now we're building on all of that, which is such a fun place to be.
Yes. So what are you building on right now?
Well, so we bought the Mariposa Hotel in Belize. So that's going amazingly, and we're building tree houses, literally building tree houses right now. I just got some pictures of the structures being going up or whatever. So there's actually physical structures there now.
So what's your plan with that project?
So we're building 6 new tree houses. It's got 11 rooms right now. 6 tree houses existing, 5 oceanfront rooms. We're building 6 more tree houses and a spa, which is a bonus on top of what the original business plan was because it's cash flowing so well that we're able to do it without raising more money. And so we're building a spa. And the reason we moved to the spa earlier was because it's currently ranked a 3-star resort. And my goal is to get it up to a 4-star resort so that it's more easily searchable, and that'll help us with our stays. And so the goal is to get it up to a $5 million valuation as soon as possible and sell it into a fund that I run so that we can combine that with the retreat property that I'm working on, the ranch in Southern California, to host amazing retreats at. So the idea is to have a fund where we can host all these amazing ranches at these beautiful properties. So we'll acquire a couple more in there. So we're building just beautiful places. Like
I love it.
Yeah, it's exciting. Sure.
Your retreats tell us about your retreats.
So the retreats that I personally host are really they're holistic retreats, but they're about building your business. They're about, how do you scale? I mean, exactly right. How do you scale? But it's holistic, because how do you become the person you need to be in order for your business to scale? It's one thing to say, here are the steps to scale a business. I read all the books, I know all the things. But if I'm not the person who can allow myself to have that level of success or to scale, then it doesn't matter. And so we do the mindset work, we do the education part, we do the access to opportunity. So we're having people connect, so those are the only 3 elements, by the way, to creating anything amazing: is mindset, access to opportunities, and education. That's it. And so we provide all those 3 things at our retreats, and they always look a little, well, the one we did in Laguna Beach, it was really cool. We did branding exercises. We did, how do you raise capital legally? Obviously, Mauricio and I were there, right? And we did a lot of walking meditations. We even did a crystal grid layout. Some of the people were really uncomfortable, like, oh my gosh, this is so weird. But then in the end, they were like, I've never experienced anything like this at any other networking event or retreat before. And so at the end of it, it's not like conferences where you're just exhausted and worn out at the end of it. It's like you're excited, and it's not the kind of mindset where people are screaming in your face to be more disciplined and motivated. It's the kind that is, I think, sustainable to maintain when you're not in that environment any longer. Like, how do you shift yourself to be the person that can, because no one's going to stay motivated all the time. You can't. And discipline is fine, but it's not enough. Right? I am super disciplined, and yet sometimes I fall off the wagon and don't exercise enough, or I eat candy instead of greens, or like, I'm very disciplined, but sometimes it's I need a little bit of a mindset shift to stay in it. And so it's what we're looking for is sustainable growth.
We have a saying at OTS that you can't organize and scale your business unless you organize and scale yourself.
Yes, that's perfect. Yeah.
And it's very much in line with that. And what I didn't realize, because I was raised in personal development and growth and Zig Ziglar and Jim Rohn and all of that. And so for me, a lot of that was second nature. I didn't even know my programming was into growth mindset. And then when I started getting under the hood and behind the scenes in a lot of other people's businesses, I would set up the systems, and then I would put them in place and hand them the keys, and then it would all unravel. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, if this is the system that works, it scaled so many businesses. I quickly realized that when I do it, I'm a different kind of leader that creates a different kind of culture. And then when I hand it back over, they're a different kind of leader that creates a different kind of culture. And that has an impact on day-to-day execution, even if you have all the right systems in the world.
That's right. Yeah.
So what you're doing with the retreats is so powerful, because you're helping business owners integrate.
Yeah, and I really love it too. So that helps, right? It feels cool to be on. And that's what I always tell people is we've heard about OPM, other people's money, and in my opinion, one of the best ways to scale, but it's not enough. And so the concept is really OPE, other people's everything. If you figure out exactly what you're amazing at and what also lights you up, because I'm good at some stuff that I do not love. So that's not going to be sustainable either, because I'm just doing it. You got to do some stuff you don't love to get to you got to do the work and all that. I'm not saying that it's just like this magic pill that, oh yeah, I'm never doing anything I don't want to do. I mean, I have to remind my 16-year-old of that a lot, right? Sometimes we got to do stuff we don't want to do, but we don't want to stay there. You don't want to live there. And so if you can learn how to first allow yourself to say what lane is yours, right? That was a thing for me for a long time. Like, I didn't think I got to only do what I love, because again, I grew up with, you just work hard. You work hard, you show up, you do what people tell you to do, and eventually maybe whatever. I don't know what, because I never saw it, right?
Because it never happened for me. I just kept working hard, and then I decided that mindset's got to change.
Yeah, so we never really saw that one to fruition. It's like when I light up, I pay attention and like, okay, I gotta and it's not always what I think, like you said before. Sometimes we surprise ourselves, like it's not what I think. Like I'm working on this ranch, and if I mean it's a development deal, I'm doing diligence, like I'm like, but when I meet with the seller and I'm doing all of the ways we can make money on this property and all this, I am like in my bliss. It is like who would have thought, right? That's not even to anything else that I've been doing. And so we just have to listen to it and then give myself permission to do it. While people, a really good example, yesterday I got to go to the property and I got to meet with the seller, which is a weird situation. I realized buyer and seller spending the day together while we're in diligence, and not the agents talking, not the lawyers talking, it's us. And I'm developing this relationship with him, and it's really cool. And I was like, oh my God, this is so exciting. Meanwhile, back at the office, whatever, someone's working on the underwriting, someone's working on the business plan, someone's working on all the stuff that makes me go, ugh, I don't want to do that, right? So I got to be happy doing all this that I'm good at, and someone else was doing all the crap that I hated. I'm like, this is it. I've arrived, you know?
Yeah. But I also, I think what I'm hearing, or maybe this is a mirror for me too, I think you love learning.
I do. Which is weird in some respects, because it's like, okay, then I'm never done. But you know what I mean? Like we just get something that's easy that I can replicate over and over and over. And I keep like I doing the law stuff, and then I do a hotel, which I hadn't done before. And then not just a hotel, but now it's a development deal with rent. So yeah, I guess that's true.
Because you used to do the pitch decks, and you used to do the underwriting, and you used to do all of those things, and now you don't have to do them. And if you did have to do them, it would be mind-numbing.
Yeah, well, not underwriting. That I still don't really know how to do.
Well,
but the rest, I've added. Nobody wants me to do underwriting. But the other stuff I had to figure out. Now I had to learn how to understand.
Yeah.
The underwriting. That's what I always tell people is while you're figuring out your lane, you still have to understand what's going on in the other lane, so you know what to inspect, what you expect, right?
Yes.
You got to know what's happening.
Yeah. How would you define success?
For me, success is having the resources and the freedom to get to choose to stay in my lane, and the ability to allow myself to say what that is. I think that's success, and staying in there. Just
I love that.
My bliss, the more successful I am.
Yeah. And if folks want to connect with you, where can they find you?
I think the easiest place is Instagram, Bethany_LaFlam. That's we'll always tell you where I am on Instagram. So if you want to find me, that's the best place.
Yeah. And then is it weekly or monthly that you do Bubbles with Bethany?
Weekly, every Thursday at 4 Pacific. Yeah.
So I was on once, and then you invite people on, and it's just an interactive Zoom meeting when there's quite a few people on.
Yeah, we get different numbers every week, but it is interactive. So it's not a podcast. It's live on Zoom every week, and you can see samples of that on my YouTube channel. But we always ask the same two questions of every single guest, and then it kind of goes from there. And that is, what is your unique superpower, and what does conscious wealth mean to you?
Mm-hmm. It is beautiful, and the group of people that they're attracting, and we run in similar circles. So I feel like we're so blessed to have people that are pursuing financial freedom, or in a lot of ways already have created financial freedom. And now they're looking to have maybe a philanthropic venture or a legacy or generational wealth path. And they're very growth minded. So they're committed to personal development and self-awareness and facing the inner demons to receive the outer rewards. And I feel like every time we're in these communities together, we get to not just have the fun, scorecard metric wins, but also the little wins inside that make a big difference. So I love that you're doing that.
Thank you. It's a lot of fun for me.
Yes. Well, I loved having you on. And for all those listening, if this resonated with you and she blessed you, please share the quote that resonated with you and tag us both. Of course, go check her out on Instagram. We'll link that below. And definitely join a Bubbles with Bethany. You will love it. And while you're getting shit done and building your businesses, remember to stay rooted, because we can't win if we don't execute. And remember to organize yourself while you organize your business. Cheers, y'all.